My name is Aruna Papp. For the last 30 years, I have been working with immigrant families, in particular the South Asian families, in the area of family violence. Family violence happens in every community around the world. There is no specific community which is prone to family violence. मेरा नाम अरुणा है। पिछले 30 साल से मैं साउथ एशियन कम्युनिटी में काम कर रही हूँ, उन फैमिलीज़ के साथ जहाँ पर लड़ाई झगड़े होते हैं, उनकी सुलह करवाना मेरा काम है। बहुत देर से ये कहानियाँ मैं सुनती आई हूँ और बहुत कोशिश करती हूँ कि घरों में सुलह रहे। It is a very difficult subject and very complicated subject, and mostly when we hear about this subject, people talk about abused women. And seldom do we hear the voices of men on the particular issue about what is happening within our community. It is a fact that family violence occurs, but what is it that we need to do as a community to heal families and bring harmony to our community and those who are members of this community? It is a very complicated issue. There is no one answer, but there is a time to start something, take a difficult step and move forward. In my knowledge, this has never happened before. What do I mean by that? Bringing men from the community forward to take a leadership role in saying, how do we heal our families? For the next several months, we are going to be inviting members of the community to come and talk about this issue: family violence, domestic violence, honor-based violence. Today, I have two very prominent members of our community who are going to join me in this discussion so that we can open up a Pandora's box, discuss a very difficult issue, and all of us are very aware and mindful and taking care that hopefully we don't offend anybody, we don't make up stereotype our community, but we also think that it is important to talk about it. So I'm going to ask both these gentlemen to introduce themselves and tell me what brought them to the show to spend their time with me. Let's begin with you.
My name is Dr. Sangha, Jagmohan Sangha. I'm a firm believer of equality between a woman and a man. And I think to answer your question, what brought me to this particular show is I would like to start a very healthy discussion on this topic, which has been talked about so many times, but perhaps not in this context where the equality between men and women and who is abused, who is not abused, and the problems that we are facing in our community need to be discussed in a more broader sense and in a different perspective.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aruna. My name is Vidya Bhushan Dhar, and I'm an IT consultant by profession. You actually put us in a very difficult situation because this is a very sensitive topic, and as you said, domestic violence is a very, very important subject. Communities around the world are basically facing this. Somehow, I feel, or probably the statistics say, that the South Asians are somehow too much involved into it. We have come a long way from our countries with our upbringings, with our education, with our surroundings, and sometimes, wantingly or not voluntarily, we bring those dogmas, we bring those mindsets to this part of the world also, and we indulge ourselves into the same kind of a thing and face the law of the land. So I'm here basically to discuss and understand from my colleague here on the platform what it is and how it can be handled through various means. That's what brings me here.
And as we were discussing before the show, the reason for doing these shows is to bring awareness, but also to teach our community how to heal after the abuse has happened. What can we do to make families stronger, right? So when I see clients, many times I hear people say, oh, my family honor has been stained. My family honor, what will people say? What is this dogma? What is this ideology that we feel is named family honor? And I know it's a very complex question, but let's just say if we are all three of us from India, and I've lived in a family where honor base was more important than anything else. Why do you think, Dr. Singara, this is so important, family honor?
I think traditionally countries that we come from, they are very family-oriented setups. It's not standalone as we see in the Western world. There are still in the villages and even in the cities, there are a lot of families who live together. It's not just the wife, husband and children who are living. So I think from that perspective, it's so very important to define the relationships amongst the family members. It's so very important to see the perspective of each other. It is so very important to understand the psyche of each other in the household.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you would be imposing your own ideas all the time on the family members, and you would never understand what's in their mind. So I believe it's so very important, this topic is so very important because there are so many families even living in Canada who live still in a common houses, a lot of them
extended
together.
Families.
Extended living together.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, I think this topic is very, very important to understand their psyche amongst each other.
अगर कोई कहे आपको ये हमारी फैमिली में ऑनर है, मेरी बेइज्जती हो गई, हमारी फैमिली में हमें शर्म आती है, लोग क्या कहेंगे, व्हाट डज दैट मीन? उसका क्या मतलब है? फैमिली ऑनर का डेफिनेशन क्या है?
I mean, family honor's definition varies from place to place, communities to communities. I believe when we look India as a whole, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, family honor definitely varies. It also depends upon what kind of a class is. Like when we talk about peasant class, educated class, or any other class. So that's the first and foremost thing. The second thing is also the education. Education defines it in a very big way. Like if I talk about like certain families where when the girl is like just of marriageable age, or like for example in Punjab, for example, it might have changed now, or it has changed in the last 20 years. But I done my engineering from Punjab. The common concept was BA karate, vyah kara do. That was like the common thing.
She's done her BA, let's get her married.
Just let's get her married. So that's one part of it. And girls have always been considered to be the weaker sex. Girls have always considered to be in many classes as some kind of a burden. And girls are considered to be a burden. Like when we talk about Kanyadan, when we basically marry off a girl,
What is that burden?
It's basically like because you have to protect that girl.
Why?
Like that's like, okay, as I said before, like they are basically, I want to be very clear here that these are not my thoughts.
Absolutely.
I am a very progressive person in that way. Like my relationship with my two sisters has been very progressive. Mm-hmm. We were born and brought up in Kashmir, which was definitely different than many other parts of the country when it comes to those honor killings or honor things. Kashmir was definitely more tolerant and more advanced if you compare it with many other societies. Mm-hmm. Like Haryana or even Rajasthan. Mm-hmm. So, as I said, that girls are considered to be, I mean, it's I don't want to open a whole can of worms here, because again it becomes debatable. Girls are considered to be like they are weak physically and mentally. So if you look at from the ages, like for example in Rajasthan or even the Arabs' time, girls need to be protected. When you marry off your girl to somebody else, you had to basically listen to them, you had to basically give them a dower, and it was basically considered to be go below your dignity. Basically, when you are giving your girl in marriage to somebody else, now you have to basically be, you are kind of handpicked in front of them. You are weak in front of them because they will otherwise, harm your girl. That's what it was in the societies in the past. And the same kind of a mindset is still prevalent in India now.
So would you say that what we are as a society protecting is the girl's virtue, her good name, her character, her reputation? Is that what we are protecting?
It's definitely, it is beyond that as well. Let me just give you a perspective. Like, I always believe that the movies made in any country reflect the society in one way or the other way. When we look at our Bollywood, for example, in the last 70, 80 years, the movies which have been made, I'm being very curt here. It's a show, it's a family show, but I want to be basically very honest and upright here. Rape was not called rape in the movies in the past or even in the society, because movies come from the societies only. When somebody was raped, it was called izzat chali gayi. So the girl's virginity was connected to izzat
and honor of the family. So normally, if you see any of those movies, or generally in the society, like if that misfortune and mishap happens with a girl, most of the times either the heroine or the side heroine or the hero's sister, she will commit suicide. But if you look at it now, in the past 20 years, the movies which have been made, the word izzat lut jana has been replaced with the word rape. That means there is no shame in accepting that. So it is one step ahead of that dogma. And the second thing is, I don't think the heroines commit suicide anymore. So it is a change. But then again, we're talking about certain sections of the society. When we go to deeper villages in India, when we go to, like for example, we go to the desert country of Rajasthan, for example, inside those tribes and places, it's still the same. Well, if you look at the statistics, for example, there are over 1,000 honor killings in India, over 1,000 or 5,000 in Pakistan and other places as well. And when you look at the stats, they're not all in the villages. There are dentists who are killing their daughters, there are politicians who are killing their daughters because they're marrying somebody out of the caste, they're marrying without the family permission, or they have boyfriends. So that's happening in the whole country. And we can understand that things are changing slowly. They are changing slowly. But my concern is that it is happening in Canada as well. Dr. Sanghera, when a man says, you have a boyfriend, I will not tolerate it because my family honor, मेरी इज्जत, लोग क्या कहेंगे, इसका क्या मतलब?
See, I think like Mr. Dhar rightly pointed out, this is exactly the problem in the society. कि लोग क्या कहेंगे?
लोग क्या कहेंगे?
I think that mindset has to first of all change. It's true that our communities are very much worried about somebody else than their own selves. They are more worried about the neighbors. They are more worried about the community kya kahegi. Even I think lot of the problems, the root cause is not because it's the parents who are objecting or the brothers who are objecting. I think it is just because they are more worried about the people around them.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I think everybody, the sane people, and most of them are, they love their children.
Yeah.
And they should.
Yes.
If you have children, there's no reason why you should not be madly in love with children and why you should not be able to relate with their thinking process and why you can't have healthy discussions with your children and see their point of view. See, after all, you have certain values that you have grown with. Now, they are going to grow with some of your values, but they are also going to adopt some of them what they get from their peers. So I would not call it peer pressure or anything, but I would call it there are certain things which they do inculcate, the habits they do inculcate outside the house as well. So it is so very important not to give so much of importance to what log kya kahenge, but you see what is right and wrong for your children. Have healthy communication with them and see their point of view. I'm sure children are so reasonable that if you explain to them in a very, very constructive manner, they do understand your point of view.
And when we talk about log kya kahenge, kya kehte hain log?
Well, I mean, as I said, we have come a long way from those cultures. But
we have brought our culture
We have
with
brought
it.
our culture with us, and we have also brought up those, what we call the narrow-mindedness also with us.
And the indication of that is in Peel region in Toronto, the majority of the arrests for domestic violence are from South Asian community.
True.
And they all seem to be related to family honor. Yeah, मेरी बेइज्जती हुई, लोग क्या कहेंगे, ये क्या, what is that? लोग क्या कहेंगे और उसको किस तरह से बदला जाए?
There are basically, that honor thing is basically from many things, and we have seen certain cases happening in the Peel region and other places. Now, for example, it's not just that the girl goes out with somebody, it's basically the way you dress. Because when we come to this part of the world, we come along with those set codes which are either part of our upbringing, part of our religion, part of our faith, or a part of the way we were trained by our parents. For example, chunni, for example, the girls, dupatta.
Yeah.
So that was considered to be a symbol of modesty. Now it may not be the same, or even if we look at the designs nowadays, dupattas have taken a different shift completely. But certain things are considered, like for example, skimpy clothes, still people frown on it. Older generation. Now again, there is a lot of times what we call the generation gap. I may not have a problem with my daughter wearing a skimpy jeans or revealing clothes, but probably my parents might have, or if my grandparents are alive, probably they might have, and that basically creates a kind of a clash within the family. Now, as Dr. Sangha said, that we may be living in a nuclear family here, just me, my wife, and my kids. But there are many broader, if you look at, like for example, places in Brampton and Mississauga, we have our parents with us, we have our grandparents with us, extended family, and then we may even go beyond that. Like for example, I might have my sister here and my cousin sister there, and then there are benchmarkings. Okay, that girl is very modest, like she wears very modestly, and this so and so's daughter, she wears very skimpy clothes. Now, as I said, like what I broadly believe is, like, this world is actually, it's not a question of man and women actually. That's my perspective. The world is actually divided among the weak and the powerful, and women has always been at the what do you call the receiving end of the man since ages. I mean, we may even divert to certain other places, like for example, when we talk about female infanticide, which may not be happening in this part of the world, it's happening in wholesale
many
back
parts
in India.
of the world.
So again, that's an honor. You call it an honor, you call it a burden, as I said in the beginning. Like, why do, as you said rightly, that
why are we killing our daughters?
We are killing our daughters, and you will be surprised that there are certain parts of the country where you have boldly written that spend 5,000 rupees on terminating their daughter and save 500,000 later on the dowry. That kind of stooping, we can sometimes go. So it is probably not just the honor; it's also the expense which we have to basically take while we are marrying our daughter off. So that's another aspect of it, and in a broader sense, it's so. And then when we go to the next level, for example, everybody is kind of a prisoner of his or her beliefs. So I will always say, okay, I will prefer to have my daughter or my son to marry within the community, and if not in the community, maybe within the same religion, and it's a compromises. But as Dr. Sangha said rightly, that our kids take a lot of training, a lot of beliefs, and a lot of education from the way we live. But since we brought them to Canada, it was we who brought them to Canada. They're going to learn a lot of other stuff from other communities. And then it is a balance either we have to create, give them that space, and be honest to them, have a dialogue with them, and consider them at par, because that's the way it should be. Nowadays, we should not basically have any difference between a boy and a girl when it comes to career, when it comes to marriage, choice of marriage. It's more important for us that our children are happy. Our children are good humans. I mean, I cannot be a good Hindu or a Muslim and I will be like, a bad person. What is more important is that we should be good humans first, and then I can be, a good, a person who following a particular religion. That's the way it should be. We should basically talk about openness first of all. There should be a dialogue. Probably I'm repeating certain things, but that's the way it should be.
We have a myth in the community that says that older people are stuck in their ways and they don't
True.
change. But the documentation shows that second and third generation boys are not changing. They also want their sisters to dress certain way. And they're Canadian born and educated. So they they see girls to look the way their moms were, because they think this is our culture, this is our identity. So when we look at the arrest records, they're not older people who are being arrested. So the myth is that older people don't change. Well, what is happening with the younger boys, younger men? The girls are being westernized. They are thinking, they are being logical, they're ambitious. They don't want to make a tea for their brothers 5 times a day, and they want equality. But why is the pendulum not changing for the young men, and why have we failed the young men into recognizing that their sisters are equal? And before I go forward, I just want to say that all the South Asian community is not suffering with domestic violence and family violence. We're just talking about certain people who are dealing with this problem, who are my clients, who get arrested. Majority of the South Asian community has settled very well, whether they be from India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, wherever they come from, they're doing well. But there is a segment of community, and they're not all uneducated people. They are educated people. But my question to you is, why is the younger generation of men in trouble?
I think you're very right in pointing out that it's not only the older generation, and a lot of young generation, and it's not the grandparents who had those taboos, even the parents have, and now it's being passed over to brothers, like you said. Now, I feel the basic problem is that
the community
in general, we have different parameters for the girls and different parameters for the boys, even within the households.
And the boys like their parameters. Obviously, yes. Yeah.
So I personally feel that sometimes just because they are girls, we are not only protective, we are overprotective towards the girls.
Yes.
See, being protective, there's nothing wrong with it. But being overprotective and not letting them do anything that the boy does in the household, that's not right. I think you have to strike a balance. Now, here is a brother who perhaps goes out and stays out for the night with his friends, but you don't let your daughter do that, because staying out for the night is not acceptable to certain community members. And when we talk of this, we are not talking about every household. Like you rightly said, there are many people who are doing wonderfully well in this country, and even back home as of today. People have modernized in their thinking, and they believe that equality amongst the boys and girls. But then it is still happening in certain households all across the world, and more so even in this part of the world, where people from different communities, they do not think that the boy and the girl have any equal rights at all. And within the house, the boys are more pampered. Like you rightly pointed out, the boy is sitting and he tells the sister, make tea for me. Okay? If that's being done with love and affection, perhaps the sister is going to be obliging all the time and she would be looking after. That's what the female
Or he
se
can be making the
are.
tea the next day for her.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I think it has to be a mutual respect within the family.
And the parents have to teach that.
I think it starts from the parents and the grandparents, and it goes on. And the parents, in case they tell the boy that, hold on, sometimes when your sister comes from school or college or university, she may also demand a glass of water or a cup of tea. You should also be obliging.
And so when you rightly point out that we treat the son and daughters differently, and I'm guilty of it myself, but so we all are, and we learn from our experience. Then if the boy is going out for a party on Friday night and will not come home until 2, should I let my daughter go as well? How do I manage that equality? What do I do in saying, because in this day and age, neither boys or girls are safe at 2 o'clock in the morning. Either they are drinking or doing drugs or doing things that they will get arrested for or have car accidents. So, it is important to see that the danger is equal to the boy and girl, and have that discussion with the children.
Right.
Go ahead.
See, I think most important thing is that they should be told what is right and what's not right. That, as parents, I still feel, even if they are getting educated here, they are mature enough to understand what life is all about. But like you said, drugs, for example, or certain other things which in our society we feel are not acceptable. There's no harm in educating your children in those fields and sit with them, explain to them. Don't force them. Tell them why they are not right. See, the problem is that so many parents, we start imposing things on children.
Absolutely.
And when you don't explain things in the right perspective and you impose on them, saying, you are not going to do this. Now, why you are not going to do this? I think that's very, very important. And as far as the drugs are concerned, perhaps you don't want your child to smoke. You don't want to get into bad habits of certain other kinds. There's no harm in explaining, saying that, look, this is not good for any society. And more so for our societies, that the background that we come from. I'm sure the children understand all this, and it stays in their mind. Somewhere it's going to echo in their mind whenever they are likely to do anything wrong. They are definitely going to remember what you said.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you correctly pointed, parents are the role model for the children. And what happens is every weekend they go for parties, and dad is so drunk that mom has to drive him home.
True.
Yes. So that's a role model. And then how can that father say, don't drink, don't smoke?
True.
That is a problem. And the other thing is that when the children get told or get into trouble is they're teenagers. That's when the parents start to talk to the children because they have made a mistake. They don't talk to them when they're 6 and 7 years old. The rules have to be set when they are younger.
True.
So they know what the parameters are. रूल क्या है, हमारे घर में क्या हो सकता है, क्या नहीं हो सकता, ये 5 और 6 साल के बच्चे के साथ बात करनी चाहिए. तभी नहीं इंतज़ार करें कि 16-17 साल के हो जाए, अरेस्ट हो जाए, फिर शराब पीने लग जाए, फिर कहें बैठ जा मेरे को तेरे अक्ल की बात करूं. वो फिर बहुत देर हो जाती है. अपने आप तो ड्रिंक कर लेते हैं फादर्स.
You see, now, as I said, things are changing. They're changing for good. Like if you talk about my dad's generation and probably my granddad generation, things have changed, they're changing. And one of the reasons for the change is basically understanding the kids much more. Like when I was growing, when I'm just sharing my personal thing. I was 17 when I left my home and went to Punjab for engineering. And when I left, so it was like that kind of my mom, dad sat and gave me like certain guidelines. Punjab, everybody drinks there. So they explained to me that what's important for me now with my career and other things. And they told me to refrain from certain things. So it was a very congenial kind of a very friendly kind of a thing. And I'm honestly telling you that I followed it and let it spread. And when I came back, and I remember when I was 19, and my dad offered me a drink. Like, though my mother frowned at it, and my dad explained, I would rather have you drink at home with me rather than you going out and getting drunk.
But you were 19, not 16.
Well, I mean, that was that time. But I'm probably going to go a little bit, beyond that. Like, my dad was progressive in that part of the time. I'm going to be a better progressive than that. Like, for example, my dad used to smoke and he still smokes at 74. I don't smoke. So the probability that my son is going to smoke are much lesser. The second thing what I have to do at my home is that the moment my son legally is allowed to have alcohol, I'll probably do the same thing what my dad did. And again, though it's difficult, thinking, because, again, there are hard drinks and then there are soft drinks.
But
ladies are supposed to be taking soft drinks. Why? A lady can feel like having a glass of, a Scotch whiskey. Why there is a woman drink? That's sexist. I mean, she has all the rights. Okay, you cannot force her, but you should basically put them at the same. I'm going to do it because what they say, charity begins at home. If I feel that I should basically have my son drink with me at home, I will probably do it with my own daughter as well.
So did you start having this discussion with your child when he was younger and not wait until 17?
Absolutely.
And that's
this
what we're talking about.
Yes. That's one part of it. And the second part of it is like when we talk about going out, having like what we call the sense of the drinking sense. Those things had to be inculcated right from the beginning. You have to basically tell the kids now. And in fact, nowadays it's more easy than in the past. Like, for example, we have, let's say, the MAD Society, Mothers Against Drinking Driving. There are videos, because what they say, the picture is 1,000 words. My words probably won't have that impact when I show my son or daughter a video which shows like what does impaired driving result into it. So I'm sure that today's kids, as we said, they're honest, they're more intelligent, and they're more aware about they are basically kids living in information technology age. They have everything at their fingertips. So the bottom line is this: we can't basically treat our children the same way our parents treated us back. And I still remember, like for example, religion. It's a very personal thing. You can't question religion. And I think we all are probably from the same era, that we can't basically challenge why this, why that. But are we the same with our kids now? They challenge you. They are logical.
And they want to understand.
They want to understand.
Yes.
Probably we were more of, either you call it afraid, or we were too obedient to our parents that whatever they said, we just followed it.
But when we were growing up, nobody was challenging parents. Everybody did the same thing. The whole environment around us was the same thing. The teachers, and we never questioned the teachers, everybody. Right. But now in school, the teachers are saying, if you don't understand, ask. You have the right to understand. But let me bring this discussion back to honor. And one of the difficulties is the parents say, this is my honor. You have brought shame to me by wearing a tight blouse, a short skirt, or dating somebody. The children growing up in Canada don't understand what is this boogie word honor, and what is that community. Who is the community? We don't live next to anybody. Everybody around us is white. Who is the community? Talk to me about the concept and the gap of understanding about father or parents' family honor, and the children not understanding that.
Well, I mean, the point is the same again, because even if we have come here in our, thought process, we still do not consider the boy and the girl at the same level.
No, I was going back
we don't.
The
so
children.
when that divide comes, so then honor is always related to the girl. And back to the same point, that if she wears skimpy clothes and the next door neighbor says, oh, or again, the thing is like people, we have to basically change our thought process, and it will all begin from I have to teach my son to not just see a girl across the street, across the neighborhood, or in a party just as an object, a sex object. He should basically see her as an individual. At par with him. somebody who is a thinking individual, somebody probably who might be even more knowledgeable and studious than him. If I am able to do that, and it trickles down to all the different levels of the society, it's definitely going to change. Until as what we say in India also, that's the same thing. We have so many rapes happening in India because most of the times people look at a girl or a woman as just a sex object. Until unless we don't change the way we think, we can't basically change our society, and that has to come from the parents.
When a father says to his children, I am an honorable man,
Right.
and you're bringing shame, what does he mean?
See, I personally feel honor has a very different meaning for different people.
Thank you.
I personally feel honor means fairness, honesty, integrity, not only in beliefs, but in actions as well. It's so very important that first and foremost, you trust your children.
True.
Tell them that you trust them. It's not only telling them, it's just genuinely trusting your children. The moment the children realize that parents are not trusting them, things start going wrong.
And the children have to be taught from birth
Yes,
how that trust is won.
absolutely.
And the parents have to sit down and talk to them and educate them about what is trust. And as you have rightly mentioned, both of you, parents are the role model. This is, as you said earlier, very complicated subject, and we need to continue talking about it. We have only scratched the surface.
Right.
If you in the community are also thinking about this subject and would like to get involved in discussions with us, please feel free to call Tag Television on the telephone number that you see below, and we would be more than happy to have you with us to talk about various angles of family honor, domestic violence, honor-based violence. My hearty thank you for your time, for coming here and having the courage to open a very sensitive subject.
Thank you very much for having us over.
Thank you for having us. And I don't know if you have ruffled any feathers today.
Ruffling feathers is a good thing because it starts a discussion. If you're angry, great. Let's talk about why. What did we say that made you upset? It's a good thing.
Yes, I fully agree with it, and I think it starts with the parents. The children see the parents respecting each other. That means a lot. That
Absolutely.
teaches them a lot.
Yes. Thank you for taking the time to watch Family Healing and Mediation with Aruna Papp at Tag TV.
#1 multicultural channel. This is Tag TV.